Mangwanani Mwalelepo Vukenjani Kekpas Vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Ashwin Berry and Glenora Shipura.
Good morning, Ashwin.
Good morning, Glenora.
How are you doing today?
I'm feeling fantastic. It's Tuesday. You choose your own fate. I like it.
And today is also Improve Your Office Day. So meaning we have to clean up the office after this.
No problem. I will be focused on this table.
Now, working in a plain corporate environment can be demoralizing at the best of times. So why not take some steps to improve your work environment? Let's take a look at this video on just that.
Today is Tuesday, the 4th of October, and these are the top stories on Africa Good Morning. Troops in Burkina Faso capital amid international condemnation of new coup. Soldiers blocked main roads and gunfire was heard in the capital of Burkina Faso on Saturday as world powers condemned the second coup this year in the deeply poor and restive West African country. Junior officers toppled the junta leader on Friday, saying he had failed to fight jihadist attacks in the country. On Saturday, several witnesses told AFP they heard gunfire in the center of the capital, Ouagadougou. The European Union and the African Union added their voices to a chorus of global condemnation to the change in power. AU Chief Moussa Faki Mahamat said he was deeply concerned about the resurgence of unconstitutional ousters in the West African nation and elsewhere on the continent.
In our next story, King Charles III to host Ramaphosa in first state visit of reign. Buckingham Palace has announced that King Charles III will host the first state visit of his new reign when President Cyril Ramaphosa and his wife, Dr. Tsepo Motsepe, travel to the United Kingdom. The King and the Queen Consort Camilla will host the state visit at Buckingham Palace, the palace said. Charles III made history after he was proclaimed the new King of Britain last month. The new monarch ascended the throne after his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, died on Thursday. While it is still not clear what the future holds for the UK and the African continent, the debate about reparations for British colonialism. Now, meanwhile, King Charles III pledged to follow his mother's examples of lifelong service in his inaugural address to Britain and the Commonwealth. Speaking for the first time as monarch from Buckingham Palace, the 73-year-old thanked his darling mama for her love and devotion to our family and to the family of nations. As the Queen herself did with such unswerving devotion, I too now solemnly pledge myself throughout the remaining time that God grants me to uphold the constitutional principles at the heart of our nation.
In our next story, MONUSCO peacekeeper killed in the DRC amid ongoing violence against the UN. Now, the peacekeeper was shot dead on Friday by suspected Twiraneho militiamen who had come to a MONUSCO camp in Minembwe, apparently to surrender. MONUSCO warned attacks against peacekeepers may constitute a war crime. The attack on the MONUSCO base comes amid a climate of mistrust towards UN soldiers in eastern DRC. The Twiraneho militia claims to defend the interests of the Banyamulenge community, a Congolese Tutsi minority. It is one of 100 or so rebel groups that have led to several thousand deaths over the past 10 years. The UN has been deployed in the DRC since 1999 and currently has a contingent of some 16,000 troops.
U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit first test for new U.S. strategy. The Biden administration's foreign policy towards Africa took definitive shape in August when Secretary of State Anthony Blinken unveiled the U.S. strategy towards sub-Saharan Africa. The new strategy will be tested during the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit scheduled for 13 to 15 December in Washington, D.C. In proposing to elevate the U.S.-African partnership, the new strategy states that it will broaden our vision of and expectations for senior-level engagements, treating meetings with African counterparts as opportunities to advance outcomes favorable to the U.S. Even when we have disagreements, we will lean in to agree to meet and address differences head-on. These and similar statements in the strategy speak to the long-running criticism about an ostensible, dictatorial, even disrespectful attitude by Washington towards African countries, particularly its leaders.
All right, now in our next story, you might have seen the graphic already. Nigerian presidential campaign kicks off in Lagos. Now, the rallies mark the start of the 2023 presidential campaign. For many Nigerians, Peter Obi offers an alternative to the old guard candidates put forward by the PDP and the APC parties. Peter Obi, a former state governor and banking executive, is challenging the long dominance of the ruling APC and main opposition PDP parties to succeed President Muhammadu Buhari at the end of February next year. High inflation, lack of jobs and insecurity have left many younger Nigerians frustrated with politics and apathetic about change at the ballot box. Electoral authorities say 70% of newly registered voters for 2023 are aged between 18 and 34. That brings us to the end of the first half of our news stories. After the break, we talk about Kenya scraping the need for a degree in order to be a governor. Stay with Africa. Good morning.
Ironga Talk brings you community news in the Ironga region. For news-related or advertising queries, contact Ironga Talk at synergy.com.na. Ironga Talk, our community, your news.
The My.NA Cars Show provides viewers with the best in-class cars content, engaging interviews, as well as a showcase of the latest cars-related news, products, and services. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact My.NA at synergy.com.na. My.NA Cars, more than just a ride.
Getting into our second half of top stories, Kenya High Court revokes degree requirement for governors. The High Court has termed unconstitutional the degree requirement for aspirants vying for gubernatorial seat. Now, in his ruling, Justice Anthony Mrima ruled that Section 22 of the Election Act, which requires gubernatorial aspirants to have a degree before being cleared to vie contravenes Article 180 of the Constitution. Now, Article 180 of the Constitution provides that to be eligible for election as county governor, a person must be eligible for election as a member of the country assembly. Now, currently, according to the Elections Act, for one to be eligible for the seat of the members of the country assembly, you only require a KCSE certificate.
All right, moving on. Cape Town flights affected by fuel shortage, despite the Airports Company of South Africa issuing two statements in which it claims that the fuel shortage at Cape Town International Airport is not having any impact on scheduled flights. Travel News has heard of at least two airlines reporting that the fuel situation has in fact had great impact on their scheduled services. Airports Company South Africa on Saturday evening, October 1, issued a new press statement warning of further delays for the delivery of jet fuel to Cape Town International Airport. ACSA says airlines have been requested to conduct technical stops to uplift fuel at alternative airports.
Still in South Africa, SA re-elected as member of International Civil Aviation Organization Council, Deputy Transport Minister Sindiswe Shikunga said South Africa's re-election as a member of the governing council at the 41st International Civil Aviation Organization speaks volumes about the country's contribution to the aviation sector. South Africa was re-elected in the plenary vote held on Saturday at the ICAO Assembly that is currently taking place in Montreal, Canada. The transport said the 41st Assembly was the first sitting since the COVID-19 outbreak, where some of the focal conversations concentrated on the economic recovery of the aviation sector, environmental factors, aviation safety and security working papers.
Now moving over to Mozambique, road accident kills 13 and leaves 7 injured in Tsangano, Tete. 13 people lost their lives this Thursday morning following a road accident in Tsangano district, central Mozambican province of Tete, last Thursday rather. Now the accident happened when the driver lost control of his truck around a curve after going down a steep road and overturned. Those with mild injuries were treated at the local health center, while others who sustained serious injuries were evacuated to the Tete Provincial Hospital. Now, Julieta Agi, substitute of the Tete Provincial Health Director, said that patients with mild complications are already under medical care. The truck involved in the accident was taking goods and people to an agricultural fair in the region.
In some inspiring news, a young Togolese inventor makes a homemade four-wheel drive. A young Togolese inventor is making waves with his self-made 4x4 car constructed using mostly recycled materials. Saruyo Ejareyo Maluzowe, 25, is a self-taught engineer with a passion for sports cars, but as he could not afford to buy one himself, he decided his only option was to build one himself. Work got underway about a year ago in his workshop in the Forever district of the capital Lome, and the first model has been out on the road for some time now. The young inventor has named the car the Rough X Raptor, a play on his own nickname, Raouf. I use a lot of recycled parts. I paid for a few new ones. In this box, you can see parts from the Titan buses, from motorcycles, from cars. It depends. I get the parts from everywhere, which is how I manage, he says. Namaluzue says there are plenty of people who are impressed by the car, and he has received several orders for one, but he has not responded as he's currently working on fixing problems with his garage. His next steps after that will be to make another one.
All right, that brings us to the end of our top stories on Africa Good Morning, but we have plenty to come after the break. We're going to be talking about the food system. Stay with us.
Flex is your health and fitness show that focuses on the health of the mind, body and spirit. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact zone@synergy.com.ma.
Now consider how the food we grow, buy, eat, and throw away relates to the global issue of food security. In this video, Richard Tiffin, Sarah Cardley, and Gareth Horsfield from the University of Reading describe the importance of the food system and how this in particular relates to food security. Now, they elaborate on the delicate balance that is needed to ensure that everyone in the world is able to eat nutritious food and what is required to feed everyone in the future. Have a look. Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. We're sticking to the subject of food. For most of the year, when you've heard of food security, it's been relating to the shortages caused by the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which was felt globally, but particularly in Africa. But what about a problem that has been prevalent for much, much longer? And it looks like if we don't mitigate it now, it will be prevalent for even longer than that, which is climate change. Seasons are changing. Farmers can't plant their crops at the times that they thought they could plant and or harvest them. The question this video is asking is, what are cities doing to mitigate this situation? So the focus is food security relating to climate change. Have a look.
How and why should food be considered within the climate policies of cities? Today, 4 billion people, or 54% of the global population, live in urban areas. By 2050, this number will grow to over 6.3 billion people, representing 66% of the world's population. Cities will be a major driver of the demand for food, and their inhabitants will need access to healthy, sufficient, environmentally friendly food. Urban food systems are a considerable source of greenhouse gas emissions. From the production and processing of food to its transportation and consumption. Furthermore, climate change can significantly impact on urban food systems. For example, climate change can create more intense heat waves, which can lead to food spoilage, increasing waste and the spread of disease. Climate change can also impact on the supply of food to cities. Urban areas often produce only a small portion of what they actually consume. As a result, if extreme weather events such as floods or hurricanes seriously damage transport infrastructure, like bridges and roads, it can interrupt food supply to a city and lead to sudden food shortages. These and other climatic events which impact food supply can cause a rise in food prices. This can have serious consequences for poorer, disadvantaged populations, who represent a quarter of the world's urban population and who are already nutritionally vulnerable. Action is needed now in order to transform our urban food systems. Urban decision-makers need to analyze the repercussions of climate change on our urban food systems with a view to finding solutions to increase resilience. They can also help to support actions aimed at reducing food waste, encouraging farming in urban areas and nearby, promoting sustainable diets in communities and schools, including tackling the overconsumption of foods that cause high greenhouse gas emissions. Diversifying food supply sources so that cities have a range of local, regional, and international food supply options. Food systems need to be a core consideration in urban climate change planning and policy. Through our individual actions and by working together, we must take the opportunity now to achieve sustainable urban food systems.
Now, it is definitely a whole lot more warmer now, but it's always a good idea to take a look at the weather.
AgriMonitor is jou weeklikse landboukundige program wat jou die jongste nuus in die landbouverwante bedryf en onderwerpe wat daaraan gekoppel is, bring. Vir enige advertensie of nuusverwante navraag, kontak agrimonitor@synergy.com.na.
Kenya Kambowe, our NMH correspondent in the northeastern region, caught up with All People's Party Secretary General Vincent Kanyetu in regards to the water situation at Rundu, Suweyemwa, and other areas. Now, some of the affected areas have been without water for up to 3 weeks. Kanyetu expressed his disappointment, and this is what he had to say. Let's take a look.
Mr. Kanyetu, can you just tell us more about the water situation in Sayema?
Thank you very much. Just as you can see, we are at the river now. We did not come here for pleasure, but we came here to come and fetch water for consumption and also to clean ourselves and stuff. But just to come back to the question, the situation is really getting out of hand now. The whole of Sauyemwa, Kasote, Satoto, and all other areas of Rundu, is affected by these shortages of water. So places like Sauyemwa, Kasote, and Satoto that I just mentioned, it's now about 4 to 5 weeks, that people don't have water. And we also had here and then Dama and all other locations also, including central town. Here and there, sometimes they get some drop of water. But just to come back to the question, the situation has affected all of us in town. And, it's so bad that some people are very old. You have elderly people in town who are not able to pay even for transport to go and fetch water at the river here or anywhere else. So the town council, from what we have learned, at least between Thursday and Friday, is that they have shifted the blame to NAM Water. Apparently, it's a case of NAM Water, and nobody is coming forth from NAM Water side to tell us that what is really happening. Everybody is just playing hide and seek kind of a game, which is not good. Town council could have publicly come out and tell us that no, it's not our fault, but it's NAM Water. And the same NAM Water could have also do the same justice to come on air, even in the local radio, to tell us that, okay, no, we are running out of whatever equipment in stock and stuff like that, but just bear with us. In short time, we are going to restore the water. But up to now, nobody is saying nothing. Everybody is quiet, and the people are suffering. And at the end of a time, whoever is having a tape, whenever you open during the night, maybe 11, 12 o'clock, it's just the air that is coming. So I'm telling you, after all this, we are going to experience a higher, death. All of us, those of us who are having water tapes connected in town, because of the air that is coming out from our tapes. Town council will charge us, and those that are taken to Red Force, they will suffer the consequences. But this is not good. We have been saying again and again the same issue of the water, that town council by now could have had an idea on how to restore the water problem in Rondo.
Okay. It's summertime. People often use water more often during this season. So how is that affected people's livelihoods, especially your neighbors and all the people around you?
My brother, you feel pity. Just now I paid for a buggy that brought water to our residents. We have to help our neighbor. There's a neighbor who's sick and the elderly person, old. So we have to help at least some 4 baskets of water so that the old lady can have access to water. These shortages of water, it's going to result in taking lives of some people around town here. I'm telling you, by the end of this struggle of water that we are having in Rundu, some people will die because people are having higher blood pressure diseases, people are having sugar, whereby they need water to drink now and again. But now in this case, even if you need water, there's no water for you.
And how much is it to hire a bucket?
Well, a bakkie is between 200 and 250. So you pay 250 or 200, depending on who the owner is. You negotiate sometimes. Then you fill the bakkie full of your baskets to go just to fetch water from the river. And you know how the situation of our river water is. So we are just taking a risk by drinking this water. At the end of the time, we're also getting diarrhea. By that way, yeah.
And the dangers of crocodile attacks is not being increased by this.
Well, you don't have any option. You don't have any option because you are in a crisis. You need water. Whether Mr. Croc is there or not, you just go there and get what you want. But it's also risky at the end of the time because some people, neighborhoods are fetching during the night and you don't know where the crocodile is coming from. So just as you are saying, the risk of people being attacked by the crocodile is also at a higher level now.
What I know is that in such crisis, the local authority or NAMWater would come up with a strategy like, okay, we understand the situation, we are fixing whatever that is broken, but then they maybe avail a tanker truck with water to go to give people free water because of the inconvenience. Has that happened, Zaima?
No, it has never happened. I mean, that is what people were expecting, That is actually what all of us expected. Because you remember during COVID time, there has been some 2 trucks around the town here that distributed water then, back in the days. But now, during this crisis, we are not seeing this, and that's been careless, That's been careless, and it's not good at all, yeah.
Okay, so basically, what is your call to either council or to NAMWater?
I mean, I don't have any business with NAMWater. NAMWater is just a business like any other business, but my problem is with the town council. It's a shame that more than 20 years, around more than 25 years of existence of Rundu town as a town council, we could not even come up with a strategy on how to address this issue. Look at Nkurenkuru, for example. Nkurenkuru doesn't own any cent to NAMWater. They have their own boreholes. Again and again, we have been telling this Swapo Town Council that drill boreholes here, give water free to the people, and let's see how we can settle the debt with NAMWater. But they don't hear. I suspect somewhere, there's some people who are benefiting in the process. Because if people cannot listen to the resident, I mean, if council cannot listen to the resident, who else are they going to listen to? If we are the people who voted them into power and they don't listen to us, we see there's a connection of benefit. So, but to end on, I'm still calling upon them, even though they are so deaf, they can't hear. This time around, if they are not going to do something, everywhere you go in Rundu, people are talking about Plan B. So I know what the Plan B is going to be. Politically, I'm happy. As a leader of APP, I'm happy because of the Plan B that is coming. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, Mr.
Thank you.
The Evening Review is a daily interview-based talk show that dissects and expounds on current affairs as they occur in Namibia. The show aims at reaching Namibians of all age groups who seek better understanding of the state of current affairs in the country. This show is broadcasted on NTV, 1up2.com, and cross-shared on the following Facebook platforms: Namibian Sun and Namibia Media Holdings. The Evening Review focuses on interviews, latest news, and up-to-the-minute current events. Contact Evening at synergy.com.na. Evening Review, unpacking today's pertinent issues.
We are back again with another
Generation
episode
Z
of your
reaches
favorite show.
scholars, varsity and the youth generation through zone, varsity and school news. If you'd like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact Zone at synergy.com.na.
Something that is absolutely important is when regional blocs, countries, and conglomerates of people campaign to industry and governments about climate change. But something else that is important is our individual efforts to reduce loss and waste. Here's a video on just that. So the previous video mostly focused on food waste in particular, not actually getting into the climate change issue, which is why we are bringing the next video. Recently, we celebrated World Environment Day, more like commemorated, you know what I mean? We all know that we can do better to try and protect our environment as individuals in this society. Things like plastics, anything that is not recyclable, we are being discouraged to use, and as often as we can, we need to use recyclable material. As I was saying previously, we are very good in general as campaigning globally, but when it comes to our individual habits day to day, I would like to consider that they may count even more, because ultimately the decisions we make for ourselves will be the decisions we make for others and the earth. Have a look. Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. It's now time for us to dive into the economic news stories. In the first of those stories, Bank of Mozambique raises MIMO rate from 15.25% to 17.25%. The Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Mozambique decided to increase the monetary policy interest rate. The measure aims to ensure the return of inflation to single digits in the medium term, in a context in which the maintenance of volatility in the prices of energy and food products at international levels is expected in the face of the prolongation of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, with the potential to trigger a spiral of sustained price increase at the domestic level.
In some exciting news for Namibia, Total Energy CEO says Namibia oil discovery could be a giant. Total Energy CEO said an oil discovery of Namibia could be a giant, boosting speculation that the country is home to a prolific new hydrocarbon basin. The find in the southwest African country seems to be a very large or even a giant one, based on the results from a single well. Total Energy's Chief Executive Officer Patrick Pouyanné said in a presentation to investors in New York on Wednesday. Now, the French major announced an initial discovery in Namibia in February week after Shell PLC also drilled a successful offshore oil well. Now, the country has high hopes for its nascent petroleum industry, predicting that it could be double GDP by 2014. Oil finds of Africa have been few and far between in recent years, with exploration activity dropping to a single rig in 2020 as the global pandemic took hold. Now, in the months following the initial discoveries in Namibia, executives at Total Energies and Shell had sought to dam speculation that they had found significant resources. Now, consultant Wood Mackenzie Limited estimated that Namibia discoveries could contain about 6.5 billion barrels of oil, equivalent of recoverable reserves.
Now, in our next story, intra-Africa travel high on Africa Tourism Leadership Forum agenda. Preparations are in high gear for the 5th Annual Africa Tourism Leadership Forum and Awards, which will see industry leaders gathering at the Gaborone International Convention Center in Botswana to explore ways of advancing entrepreneurship and empowerment of women and youth in tourism. Taking place from 24 to 26 October, the event, organized by the Botswana Tourism Agency and Africa Tourism Partners in collaboration with the UN World Tourism Organization and accounting firm BDO, will be attended by over 350 delegates from more than 30 countries, including government ministers, policymakers, and captains of industry. The forum, themed Igniting Intra-Africa Tourism Through Inclusive Intra-Africa Trade, Partnerships and Investments, will pay particular attention to facilitating conversations and partnerships with the main objective of encouraging intra-Africa travel through intra-Africa trade partnerships and investments. ATLF 2022 will host Africa's tourism private sector apex bodies for a roundtable discussion. The event will culminate in the announcement of winners of the Africa Tourism Leadership Awards, which strive to honor outstanding innovations in travel, tourism, hospitality, and related industries. Winners of the Africa Youth in Tourism Innovation Challenge will be announced on the same evening to recognize young people who are making extraordinary strides in tourism.
Rounding off our economic news stories, Nigerian investment in Mozambique tops US $44 million in 5 years, expected to grow in the near future. Now, Mozambique is seeking business partnerships in the areas of tourism, agribusiness, mineral resources, and energy with Nigeria. Minister of Industry and Commerce Silvano Moreno reiterated at the bilateral business forum, which started this Thursday. Now, Nigeria's investment in Mozambique between 2016 and 2021 is valued at more than $44 million, most notably in the country's banking sector, as is the case of the United Bank for Africa, Access Bank, and other banking institutions. Now, however, the government believes that it is imperative to widen the scope for economic cooperation in other sectors. According to the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, there are other areas which deserve greater attention and can serve as a catalyst for access to international markets and contribute to the development of both countries. The Business Forum in Maputo, which brings together business people from Nigeria and Mozambique, runs under the motto, creating opportunities for partnership, investment, and economic growth, and ends this Friday.
All right, that brings us to the end of our economic news stories. Just before we get into Ari's sports package, let's have a look at the economic indicators.
Careers Bistro focuses on the movers and shakers in the corporate world. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact Zone at synergy.com.na.
In Business 7, you get news on current economic, financial, and business matters in Namibia. The weekly show features interviews with experts and in-depth analysis of burning issues in a way that caters for ordinary Namibians and business connoisseurs alike. For news-related or advertising queries, please contact B7 at synergy.com.na.
Take a load off and tune into another episode of Brave Namibia as we take a look at both ordinary and extraordinary Namibians. Brave Namibia is broadcasted on NTV Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. and oneup2.com, as well as broadcasted on the following Facebook platforms on Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Republican, Algemeine Titan, Namibian Sun, and all Namibia Media Holdings pages. For more information, contact the Brave team at brave@synergy.com.na. Brave Namibia, for the ordinary and extraordinary Namibians.
Now the question on everyone's mind, the one thing everyone can't stop thinking about is, will Ashwin ever stop celebrating Manchester United's loss? Now, if you're a person who hasn't always had the privilege of having everything you need around you, you know that when milk is finishing, you can always add a little bit of water. And that's how I treat my disdain for Manchester United. Just when you think that the milk is finished, I will celebrate by adding water and making it stretch. Let's have a look at the sports package from Ari Hochard, which is certainly not as biased as I am.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, and starting off with golf news. Lots of golf tournaments being played all over the world over the weekend, but the world rankings came out after all the results came in, and it is still Scotty Scheffler of the USA that's the world number one at the moment. Actually, not a change in the top 10, with Rory McIlroy still number 2. He had a credible top 3 finish. That was in Alfred Dunhill tournament. It was played at St Andrews, part of the European Tour. It's Cameron Smith playing currently on the LIV Tour Invitational. That's controversial at the moment regarding world rankings, but he didn't play in this tournament, and he is still number 3 in the world. That is Cameron Smith of Australia. The big gain of the weekend, or after the weekend, was Ryan Fox of New Zealand. Ryan Fox won the Dunhill Links at St Andrews. Impressive win for him. That was his 3rd win on the European Tour, and it moves him up 22 places, up to number 25 in the world, and he was number 47. He was right on the cut line not to make the Masters. The top 50 players will get into the Masters and other major tournaments as well. But now this secures Ryan Fox to play in the 2023 Masters tournament next year. Southern African interest, Louis Oosthuizen, he had a top 10 finish at the Dunhill Links tournament, and he remains in 34th position, the highest ranked Southern African player on the world rankings at the moment. Also a good game for Dean Burmeister. He had a top 5 finish. That was also at the Dunhill Links, and he moves up from number 68 to number 58, so he's quite close to that top 20 or top 50 in the world. The next tournament on the European Tour will be the Open de Spain. That will be in Madrid. That is the next one starting on Thursday. Moving on to tennis news, also the world rankings that came out in a new week after the tournaments was completed on the ATP for men's and the WTA for women's tours. On the men's side, it was the Seoul Open that was concluded. It was Yoshiki Nishihika of Japan that won the tournament. He beat Denis Shapovalov by 6-4 and 7-6. That's also a big gain for Nishihika. He moves up to number 41 in the world now. He was 56, so it's a gain of 15 places. Denis Shapovalov, he goes up 2 places. He's now number 22 in the world. The top 3 in the world at the moment is Carlos Alcaraz. He's number 1. And then Rafael Nadal moves up to number 2. He overtakes Casper Ruud, that had an early exit in the Seoul Open. He's number 3 in the world. That is Casper Ruud. On the women's side, on the WTA side, it was the Tallinn Open that was played in Estonia. The winner there was Barbora Krejcikova, and she beat Anett Kontaveit of Estonia, and the score there was 6-2 and 6-3. The change of the world rankings means that Anett Kontaveit remains number 3 in the world. She's behind Ons Jabeur, that's number 2. Number 1 in the world is still Iga Swiatek of Poland. Now, next on international sports news, it is cycling news, a very exciting pro cycle tour that finished after stage 6. It was a very, very close finish. In fact, it was just 1 second behind the winner and the second placed cyclist. It was Matej Mohoric. He won. He's from Slovenia. He beat Jonas Vingegaard by just 1 single second. That was after all the general classifications came in after 6 stages. His winning time of 24 hours, 54 minutes and 5 seconds. Just 1 second behind him is Jonas Vingegaard. And Vingegaard started the last stage, the stage 6, with an 8-second lead. But because Mohoric finished second, he gained a 6-second bonus. And also during the race, there was a time trial or time stage where he gained another 3 seconds gain. So that was 9 seconds. He made up on the 8 seconds lead. So he won by just 1 second. The stage 6, the last stage, was won by Ilya Vinivani in 3 hours, 15 minutes and 51 seconds. Finishing off today's international sports news with Formula One racing news. It is this weekend. It is the Japanese race, Japanese Formula One Grand Prix that will be at Suzuka. And the news from Formula One is that Max Verstappen, if he wins this Grand Prix in Japan and he also achieves the fastest lap, he will be the champion with 5 races still to go. So that will be quite an achievement. That is because he's leading by 104 points at the moment. He's got 341 points in total. Charles Leclerc of Ferrari has got 237. And then Sergio Perez of Red Bull as well, 235 points. So that means that if Max Verstappen gains 8 places on Charles Leclerc and 10 places on Sergio Perez, he's the new champion for 2023. That's international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day, and we talk again tomorrow.
Flex is your health and fitness show that focuses on the health of the mind, body, and spirit. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact zone@synergy.com.na.
Thank you for staying with Africa Good Morning. Throughout this morning's broadcast, I quite enjoyed today's show. There was a lot of focus on food security around the world. We focused on climate change. We were hoping to have a couple of conversations in between, but we carry that on tomorrow. Plenty coming to you on Africa Good Morning every single weekday. Let's have a look at the highlights. Troops in Burkina Faso capital amid international condemnation of new coup. King Charles III to host Ramaphosa in first state visit of reign. MONUSCO peacekeeper killed in DRC amid ongoing violence against the UN. US-Africa Leaders Summit first test for new US strategy. And Bank of Mozambique raises MIMO rate from 15.25% to 17.25%. Those have been our stories.
Thank you for staying with us on this lovely Tuesday morning. Do remember that Africa Good Morning is repeated on our 1UP2 website and our DSTV channel 285 and our GoTV channel 94 between 8:30 and 9:30 a.m. every weekday. I am Glenora Shipora.
And I am Ashwin Berry. Swera Jakanaka.